12 years without intimacy. What does the Bible say about marriage? 1 Corinthians chapter 7. This wife here openly admitted to withholding physical intimacy from her husband for over 12 years. Then she asked the panel, what should she do? Because now her husband has a child that they just found out about that is 11 years old, and the husband is wanting the child to come home and live with him. I am going to give my take and commentary on this video that I'm about to share with you all, and I'm going to use this video as a teaching lesson to show you what the Bible really says about marriage, wives, and withholding intimacy. So we have a good one today. Get out your pen and paper and share this. And I am going to quickly share the video clip with you. But before I do, let me read one passage of scripture in regards to this video and what this lady is asking the panel. 1 Corinthians chapter 7, verse 1. Now regarding the question you asked in your letter, yes, it is good to abstain from physical relations, but because there is so much immorality, each man should have his own wife, his own Isha, his own Gune, and each woman should have her own husband. The husband should fulfill his wife's physical needs, and the wife should fulfill her husband's needs. The wife gives authority over her body to her husband, and the husband gives authority over his body to his wife. Do not deprive each other of physical relations unless you both agree to refrain from intimacy for a limited time, so you can give yourselves more completely to palau or prayer. Afterwards, you should come together again so that Satan won't be able to tempt you. Now, this lady openly admitted she hasn't given her husband physical relations for over 12 years, and she's asking the panel what she should do. Let me share this with you. Fair use for entertainment purposes only. Pay attention. For entertainment purposes only. Pay close attention to what this wife is about to say.
So, my husband said because I cut him off in 2014, my husband said because I cut him off, he's weak. That's how come that happened here.
Now, I need you all to pay close attention to what she's about to testify to. Make it make sense. Let's continue.
Him off. Context.
Weak. That's how come that happened here.
Oh, you cut him off. Context is very important. Context is very important here.
And that's fine.
Context is
Play
very
stupid. Say cut off. How long was this cut offness?
To 14.
To how long?
Now.
Context
Nigga, still 2014 to now. He's got no cookies.
This marriage been over. You talking
Cookies.
This marriage been over. You talking about what should I do? Nigga, you know what you should do. Hold on.
Now let's run this back to the beginning. That's why in the scriptures it says, under the witness of 2 or 3 shall every matter be established. Now she openly admitted that she's withhold and has not given her so-called husband physical relations for years. And she's on here asking this panel what she should do. Let's run it back to the top. Listen.
Married since name is Renee, and I've been married since 2007. My husband and I were just told in March that he has an 11-year-old child.
Listen.
Now, yes, and I forgave my husband, of course, And the child is innocent, but he wants the child to come and live with us now. So I don't know how I really feel about that. So
Now I want you to continue to listen, and no disrespect to the sister, but I mean, look, come on, man. Look at the physicalities with a hair hat on. Let's continue. My goodness. No disrespect, but truth is truth. Let's continue.
now, yes, and I forgave my husband, of course. And the child is innocent, but he wants the child to come and live with us now. So I don't know how I really feel about that. So I'm kind of confused. Like, you know, she's 11.
You
But
know, just found out. Did you just find out about that infidelity?
That too.
You know, here's the thing. Before we get into this, I think that part.
Let us go to the scriptures on this. Back to the book of 1 Corinthians chapter 7. Let us look at verse 2. And what I'm about to share with you right now, many of you have never heard in the entirety of your lives, only because the overwhelming majority of the people only read the scriptures or the Bible on the surface. You must, to fully understand what is written of in Yahuwah Elohim's word, you need to trace every English word back to the original Abari, Hebrew, and Koine Greek that the New Testament was written in. Then and only then will you totally enter and understand what is written of in the word of Yahuwah Elohim. What we want to focus on is 1 Corinthians chapter 7, verse 2. Listen. But because there is so much immorality, each man should have his own wife, his own gune, his own Isha. Isha is Hebrew for woman. Gune is Greek for woman or wife. And each woman should have her own husband. When you look up that word own in the original Koine Greek, as you see here using a interlinear Bible, it is Greek Strong's Concordance number 2398, and it is a word in the Greek known as idios. What does the word idios mean? It is the same word that is found in the book of Matthew, Matthew chapter 9, verse 1, where it states, and Yahushua came unto his own idios city. So the word idios in the original Koine Greek is a word that's communal, meaning it can be shared. And what it said in the original New Testament before it was translated into English, while a husband may be shared by more than one wife simultaneously, a wife could never be shared by more than one man. So even in the New Testament, it allowed a man to have more than one Isha, more than one Gune, more than one woman. So according to this passage of scripture, when the wife denied the husband, if he went and got another woman that did not belong to another man, her husband has committed no sin. But she has sinned because for 12 years, she deprived her husband of physical intimacy. So according to the scriptures, her husband had every right to go get another woman as long as the other woman that he got did not belong to another man. But the wife herself could never go get another husband while her husband is alive. Let me prove this even further, still in the book of 1 Corinthians. And before I forget, I have a whole lesson on this particular topic on YouTube, and this is the thumbnail right now. Let's continue in today's lesson. 1 Corinthians chapter 7. Let us go down to verse 10. But for those who are married, I have a command that comes not from me, but from Yahuwah. A wife, a Isha, a Gune, a woman must not leave her husband. But, and if she does, let her, not him, let her remain single, or else be reconciled back to her husband, and the husband must not leave his wife, his Isha, his Gune. So if a wife leaves her husband, it was not permissible for her to remarry. But if a wife leaves a husband and deprives her husband of physical intimacy, the commandment was to the woman to her to remain single, or she must go back to her husband. But that same commandment was not given unto her husband. How do we know this? Because in this same chapter, 1 Corinthians chapter 7, let's look at verse 28, which is to the man. But and if you do get married, the man, it is not a sin. So if this man's wife leaves him and months and years go by and he's not able to have physical intimacy because his wife left him, the commandment in verse 10 and 11 that came from Yahuwah Elohim and not Apostle Paul was that the wife was to remain unmarried. But this man whose wife left him, if months and years go by, if he gets another woman that does not belong to another man, he has committed no sin. And if a young woman gets married, it is not a sin. However, those who get married at this time will have trouble, and I am trying to spare you. In this same chapter, verse 39, look at what it says to the woman. A wife, a Isha, a Gune, a woman is bound how long, family? As long as her husband lives. But and if her husband unalives, then and then is she free to marry whom she will, only in Yahuwah Elohim. So the only thing that set a woman free from her husband was her husband being unalive of natural causes and nothing else. If she married another man while her husband was alive, the moment she allows this other man to have physical intimacy with her, she has broken her marital covenant, and at that very moment, she shall be considered an adulteress. Let's further prove this. Book of Romans chapter 7, verse 1. Know ye not, brethren, for I speak to them that know the law, how that the law have dominion over a man as long as he lives. For the woman, the Isha, the Gune, the wife, which have a husband, is bound by the law to her husband as long as he lives. But and if the husband be unalive, she is loose from the law of her husband. So then if, while her husband lives, and she be married to another man, she shall be called an adulteress. But if her husband be unalive, she is free from that law, so that she is no adulteress, though she be married to another man. The only thing that set a woman free from her marital bounds was the unaliving of her husband. And many do not know that the modern marriage licenses were invented by the Church of England, the Gentiles, the Ophites, over 1,100 years after the New Testament was written and completed. All wives and concubines in the Bible were Bethuelahs and virgins on their wedding night, and all biblical marriages were established by the shedding of blood, which is Deuteronomy chapter 22, verse 13 through 21, states that if a woman was not a virgin on her so-called wedding night, she was to be taken to the door of her father's house and stoned until she was unalived. Marriage licenses were created by the Gentiles, the Church of England, over 1,100 years after the New Testament was written and completed. The only thing that broke a marital bond or set a woman free from her husband was the unaliving of her husband. Oh, hold on to your socks, family. We're about to go in deep water with the scriptures. And what I'm about to share and teach you, no one can gainsay or resist. Book of Luke, chapter 13. Write this down. Let us look at verse 28. Listen. And there shall be weeping and gnashing of teeth when ye or you shall see Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, called Jacob, and all of the prophets in the kingdom of Yahuwah Elohim, and you yourselves thrust out. Let us deal with the marital construct of the biblical prophets, such as Abraham, Moses, or Jacob, called Jacob. You see, family, the truth of the matter is Yahuwah Elohim does not change. He is the Aleph and the Tav, the so-called Alpha and Omega, which is the beginning and the end. Yahuwah Elohim is the same yesterday, today, and forevermore. The first person we want to deal with is Father Abraham, the father of faith. Let us look at his marital construct. Book of Genesis, or Bereshit, chapter 16, verse 1. Now Sarah, Abram's wife, bare him no children, and she had a handmaid, an Egyptian, whose name was Hagar. Now the Bible or the scriptures describe Sarah as one of the most beautiful women in the entirety of the Bible. And as beautiful as Sarah was, for many years she could not give her husband children. So Sarah said, Abram, go into my handmaid and bear children on her knees. Let's look at Sarah and Hagar even further. Still in the book of Genesis or Bereshit, let us go to chapter 12 and pick this up at verse 11. And it came to pass, let's get it at verse 10. And there was a famine in the land, and Abram went down to Mitzrayim, called Egypt, to sojourn there, for the famine was very grievous in the land. And it came to pass, when he was come near to enter into Mitzrayim, called Egypt, that he said unto who? Sarah, his Isha, his wife, his Gune, behold now, I know that thou art a beautiful woman to look upon. Therefore it shall come to pass, when the Egyptians shall see thee, that they shall say, this is his Isha, his wife, his Gune, and they will unalive me. But they will save thee alive. Say I Palau call pray thee that thou art my sister, that it may be well with me for thy sake, and my soul shall live because of thee. And it came to pass that when Abram was come into Egypt, or Mitzrayim, that the Egyptians beheld that the woman Sarah was very beautiful. The princes also of Pharaoh saw her and commended her before Pharaoh, and the woman who is Sarah was taken into Pharaoh's house. And he entreated Abram well for her sake, and he had sheep and ox and donkeys and men servant and maid servants and she donkeys and camels. You see where it says maid servant? This is where Sarah gets the handmaids from, Hagar and Keturah. They were Egyptian or Midian, they were non-Israelite women. Let's continue. Verse 17, and Yahuwah plagued Pharaoh and his house with great plagues because of Sarah, Abram's wife. And Pharaoh called to Abram and said, what is this that thou hast done unto me? Why didst thou not tell me that she is thy wife, thy Isha, thy Gune? Why sayest thou she is my sister, so that I might have taken her to me to wife? Now therefore, behold thy wife, and take her, and go thy way. And Pharaoh commanded his men concerning him, and they sent him away, and his wife, and all that he had, which includes the the manservant and maid servants, in which this is where Haggai and Keturah comes from. Let's continue. Still in the book of Genesis, and still dealing with Abraham, the father of faith, chapter 20, and let's pick this up at verse 8. Pay attention. Now Abimelech rose early in the grand rising, and called all his servants, and told all these things in their ear, and the men were sore afraid. Then Abimelech called unto Abraham, and said unto him, what hast thou done unto us? And what have I offended thee, that thou hast brought on me and on my kingdom a great sin, that thou hast done the deeds unto me that ought not to be done? And Abimelech said unto Abraham, what sayest thou that thou hast done this thing? Listen. And Abraham said, because I thought surely the fear of Yahuwah Elohim is not in this place, and they would slay me for my wife's sake. And yet indeed, this is what many don't know. Verse 12, listen. And yet indeed, she is my sister. She is the daughter of my father, but not the daughter of my mother, and she became my wife. Yes, Sarah and Abraham had the same father, but different mothers. This is before the law was stated, thou shalt not take thy father's daughter. This was before that was written. Let's continue. Verse 13. And it came to pass when Elohim caused me to wander from my father's house, that I said unto her, this is thy kindness which thou showed unto me at every place whither we shall come. Say of me, he is my brother. And Abimelech took his sheep and oxen, men servant and women servant, in which Haggai and Keturah comes from, and gave them unto Abraham, and restored him Sarah, his wife. And Abimelech said, behold, my land is before thee, dwell where it pleaseth thee. And unto Sarah he said, behold, I have given thy brother 1,000 pieces of silver. Behold, he is to thee a covering of the eyes, and unto all that are with thee, and with all others. Thus she was reproved. So Abram plowed unto Yahuwah Elohim, and Elohim healed Abimelech and his wife and his maidservants, and they bare children. For Yahuwah had fast closed up all the wombs of the house of Abimelech because of Sarah, Abraham's wife. Now let us go back to the book of Bereshit, chapter 16, or Genesis 16, and pick it up at verse 1. Now that you have clarity and this is put in context, let us read it once more. Now Sarah, Abram's wife, bare him no children, as this woman on this panel, which you can tell she's far past her childbearing years, and she have withhold relations from her husband for over 12 years. So her husband had every right to go get another Isha, another woman, another Gune. Now Sarah, Abraham's wife, bare him no children, and she had a handmaid which she got from Pharaoh, an Egyptian, whose name was Hagar. And Sarah said unto Abram, Behold, now Yahuwah have restrained me from bearing. I plow, or pray thee, go in unto my maid, that I may obtain children by her. And Abram hearkened to the voice of Sarah, and Abram and Sarah, Abraham's wife, took Hagar, the maid, the Egyptian, after Abram dwelt 10 years in the land of Canaan, and gave her to her husband Abraham to be his wife. Sacred energy exchange with a consenting adult female virgin has always been marriage according to the Bible, not some piece of paper that was created and invented by the Gentiles over 1,100 years after the New Testament was written and completed. Sacred energy exchange with a consenting adult female virgin and her father's permission was and has always been biblical marriage. So now Abraham has 2 wives, 2 Ishas, 2 Gunes. Still dealing with Abraham, the father of faith. Book of Bereshit, or Genesis, chapter 25, verse 1. Then again, Abraham took a wife, a Isha, a Gune, and her name was Keturah. So the father of faith, Abraham, had 3 wives. Let us now deal with Moshe, or Moses, the man who Yahuwah Elohim used to write, Thou shalt not commit adultery. Let's look at his marital construct, Moses, or Moshe. Let us go to the book of Shemot, or Exodus, chapter 20, and let us pick this up at verse 17, dealing with the marital construct of Moshe, or Moses. Book of Shemot, chapter 20, verse 17. Listen, thou shalt not covet thy neighbor's house. Thou shalt not covet thy neighbor's wife, nor his manservant, nor his maidservant, nor his ox, nor his donkey, nor anything that is in thy neighbor's. And all the people saw the thunderings and the lightnings and the noise of the trumpet and the mountain smoking. And when the people saw it, they removed and stood far off. And they said unto Moshe, Moses, speak thou with us, and we will shema or hear, but let not Yahuwah Elohim speak with us, lest we unalive. And Moshe said unto the people, Fear not, for Yahuwah Elohim is come to prove you, that his fear may be before your faces, and that ye sin not. And the people stood far off, and Moshe drew near unto the thick cloud of darkness where Yahuwah Elohim was. And Yahuwah said unto Moshe, thus shalt thou say unto the children of Yisrael, and ye have seen that I have talked with you from heaven. So the very man that Yahuwah Elohim used Moshe or Moses to write in verse 14, thou shalt not commit adultery, he had more than 2 wives, all to whom he was married to at the same time. In the book of Shemot or Exodus chapter 21, let us look at verse 10. This is Moshe, the man that had more than 1 Isha, more than 1 Gune. Look at what he writes in the very next chapter, right after he wrote the 10 commandments. Exodus or Shemot chapter 21. If he take him another Isha, another wife, another Gune, her food, her raiment, and her duty of marriage, which is conjugal rights, he shall not diminish. It never said he had to be an extremely rich man or have several houses. When it says that they had dwelling places, they were tents. And I'm going to teach further on that in another lesson. Nowhere in the entirety of the Bible did it say a man had to be rich to have more than 1 Isha, more than 1 wife, more than 1 Gune. I am coming with a lesson that's going to be solely dedicated to that. But it says in verse 10 of Shemot 21, if he take him another wife, Isha, Gune, her food, her raiment, which is her clothing, and her duty of marriage, which is conjugal or physical rights, he shall not diminish. So right here, he is stating that a man could have more than 1 Isha, more than 1 wife, as he did. In the book of Shemot or Exodus chapter 2, still dealing with Moshe, let's pick this up at verse 17. Listen. And the shepherds came and drove them away, but Moshe stood up and helped them and watered their flock. And when they came to Ruel, their father, he said, how is it that ye are come so soon today? And they said, an Egyptian. Moshe was an Israelite, but the Egyptians and Israelite were both woolly haired with melanated skin. They said, an Egyptian delivered us out of the hand of the shepherds and also drew water enough for us and watered the flock. And he said unto his daughters, where is he? Why is it that you have left the man? Call him that he may eat bread. And Moshe was content to dwell with the man, and he gave Moshe or Moses Zipporah his daughter. So that's Moshe's one of his wives. Still dealing with Moshe or Moses in the book of Exodus or Shemot. Let us go to chapter 18, dealing with Moshe or Moses. Verse 1. When Jethro, the priest of Midian, Moshe or Moses' father-in-law, heard of all that Elohim had done for Moshe and for Israel, his people, that Yahuwah had brought Israel out of Mitzrayim, then Jethro, Moshe's father-in-law, took Zipporah, Moshe's wife, after he had sent her back, and her 2 sons, of which the name of one was Gershom, for he said, I have been an alien in a strange land, and the name of the other was Eleazar, for Elohim of my father said, was mine help, and delivered me from the sword of Pharaoh. And Jethro, Moshe's father-in-law, came with his sons and his Isha unto Moshe in the wilderness, where he encamped at the mount of Elohim. And he said unto Moshe, thy father-in-law Jethro am come unto thee, and thy wife and her 2 sons. Still dealing with Moshe Let us go to the book of Bamidbar, or Numbers, chapter 12, verse 1. And Miriam and Aharon spake against Moshe because of who the Ethiopian woman whom he had married, for he had married an Ethiopian woman. So Moshe had more than one wife, the same man that Yahuwah Elohim used to write, "Thou shalt not commit adultery." And they said, "Have Yahuwah indeed spoken only by Moshe or Moses? Have he not spoken also by us?" And Yahuwah Elohim heard it. Now the man Moshe or Moses was very meek above all men which were upon the face of the earth. And Yahuwah Elohim spake suddenly unto Moshe and unto Aharon and unto Miriam, "Come ye three out unto the tabernacle of the congregation." And they three came out. And Yahuwah Elohim came down in a pillar of cloud and stood in the door of the tabernacle and called Aaron and Miriam, and they both came forth. And he said, "Shema, or hear now my words. If there be a prophet among you, I, Yahuwah, will make myself known unto him in a vision, and will speak unto him in a dream. My servant Moshe is not so, who is faithful in all mine house. With him will I speak mouth to mouth, even apparently, and not in dark speeches, and the similitude of Yahuwah Elohim shall he behold. Wherefore then were ye not afraid to speak against my servant Moses?" And the anger of Yahuwah Elohim was kindled against him, or them, and he departed. And a cloud departed from off the tabernacle, and behold, Miriam became leprous, as white as snow. And Aharon looked upon Miriam, and behold, she was leprous. And Aharon said unto Moshe, "Alas, my master, I beseech thee, lay not this sin upon us, wherein we have done foolishly, and wherein we have sinned." So Moses himself had two wives, and because they spoke against Moshe, he struck Miriam with leprosy, and she became as white as snow. Let us now deal with the marital construct of Jacob, or Jacob, book of Genesis, or Bereshit, chapter 28. Write these down, family, and read along with me. And Isaac, or Yitzchak, called unto Jacob, or Jacob, and baruched him, and charged him, and said unto him, "Thou shalt not take a wife of the daughters of Canaan." So, well, I'll save that for another lesson. Book of Leviticus, chapter 13. Let's look at verse 12. "And if the leprosy break out abroad in the skin, and the leprosy have covered all the skin of him that have the plague, from his head even to the foot, wheresoever the priest looketh, then the priest shall consider, and behold, if the leprosy have covered all his flesh, he shall pronounce him clean that have the plague of leprosy. It is all turned white." In this same chapter, Leviticus chapter 13, look at verse 30. "Then the priest shall see the plague, and behold, if it be in the skin deeper than the skin, and there be in it a thin yellow hair, then the priest shall pronounce him," you see it is a dry skull. So he was commanded not to take one of the daughters of Canaan. You know, nowadays they call it vitiligo. But that's for another lesson. Let's get back to Genesis or Bereshit chapter 28. And Yitzchak or Isaac called unto Jacob or Jacob and baraked him and charged him and said, Thou shalt not take a Isha, a wife, a gune of the daughters of Canaan. Arise and go to Pandaram, the house of Bethuel, thy mother's father, and take thee a wife from thence of the daughters of Laban, thy mother's brother. So where is he going, family? To his uncle's home. Still dealing with Jacob and his marital construct, let us go to chapter 29 of Genesis or Bereshit and pick this up at verse 10. Now that he's gone to his uncle's house. And it came to pass when Jacob or Jacob saw Rachel, the daughter of Laban, his mother's brother, and the sheep of Laban, his mother's brother, that Jacob went near and rolled the stone from the well's mouth and watered the flock of Laban, his mother's brother. So this is his uncle. And Jacob kissed Rachel and lifted up his voice and wept. And Jacob told Rachel that he was her father's brother and that he was Rebekah's son. And she ran and told her father. And it came to pass when Laban heard the tidings of Jacob, his sister's son, that he ran and met him and embraced him and kissed him and brought him to his house. And he told Laban all these things. And Laban said to him, Surely thou art bone of my bone and flesh of my flesh. And he abode with him a space of a month. And Laban said unto Jacob, Because thou art my brother, shouldest thou therefore serve me for naught? Tell me what shall be thy wages. And Laban had 2 daughters. The name of the elder was Leah, and the name of the younger was Rachel. Leah was tender-eyed, but Rachel was beautiful and well-favored. You see? And many don't know this, so let me share this with you about Rachel and Leah. Book of Jasher, chapter 28. Let us look at verse 27. Listen. This is pertaining to Jacob and his wives. Verse 27. For the wife of Laban was barren in those days and bare no children, and also of his handmaids bare him none. So Jacob's uncle had more than one Isha, more than one wife, more than one woman. Verse 28 of Jasher, book of Jasher, chapter 28, verse 28. And Yahuwah afterward remembered Adnah, the wife of Laban, and she conceived and bare twin daughters. And Laban called the names of his daughter. The name of the elder was Leah, and the name of the younger was Rachel. So Rachel and Leah were twin sisters. It's just in Jacob's eyes, Rachel was a little more beautiful than her twin sister Leah, but you gotta know that twins look the same. So they were twins, you see? And while we're in the book of Jasher, let us go to chapter 16 real quick, and let me share something with you with Lot. Then we're going to quickly get back to Jacob, since we were already in the book of Jasher, and many of you all don't know this. Book of Jasher, chapter 16, verse 8. And Abram recovered all the property of Sodom, and he also recovered Lot and his property and his wives. Yes, Lot had more than one wife. Let's get back to Jacob and his family construct now that we've established that Rachel and Leah are twin sisters. Book of Genesis or Bereshit chapter 29. Let's pick this up at verse 19. Listen. And Laban said, it is better to give her to thee than that should give her to another man. Abide with me. And Jacob served 7 years for Rachel, and they seemed unto him but a few days, for the love he had for her. And Jacob said to Laban, give me my wife, for my days are fulfilled, that I may go in unto her. And Laban gathered together all the men of that place, and made a feast. And it came to pass in the evening that he took Leah, his daughter, and brought her to him, and he went in unto her. And Laban gave unto his daughter Leah Zilpah his maid for an handmaid. And it came to pass that in the grand rising, behold, it was Leah. And he said to Laban, why hast thou done this to me? Didst I not serve thee for Rachel? Wherefore thou hast beguiled me? And Laban said, it must not be so done in our country, to give the younger before the firstborn. Fulfill her week, and I will give thee her also for the service which thou hast served me yet these 7 years. And Jacob did so, and fulfilled her week, and he gave him Rachel his daughter to wife also. And Laban gave to Rachel his daughter Bilhah his handmaid to be her maid. And he went also into Rachel, and he loved also Rachel more than Leah, and served him yet another 7 years. So now Jacob has 2 wives who are twin sisters. Let's continue. Book of Genesis, or Bereshit, chapter 30, verse 1. And when Rachel saw that she had bare Jacob no children, Rachel envied her sister, and said unto Jacob, give me children, or else I unalive. And the anger of Jacob was kindled against Rachel, and he said, am I in Elohim's stead, who have withheld thee from the fruit of thy womb? And she said, behold, my maid Bilhah, go in unto her, that she may bear upon my knees, that I might also have children. So here it is, you have beautiful daughters of Zion, Israelite melanated women who were virgins on their wedding night, and because they could not have children, they gave their husbands other wives. A man was created to procreate. Let's continue. And she gave him Bilhah, her handmaid, to what? To wife. And Jacob went in unto her, and Bilhah conceived, and bare Jacob a son. And Rachel said, Elohim have judged me, and have also heard my voice, and have given me a son. Therefore she called his name Dan. And Rachel and Bilhah, Rachel's maid, conceived again, and bare Jacob a son. And Rachel said, with great wrestlings have I wrestled with my sister, and I have prevailed. And she called his name Naphtali. And when Leah saw that she had left bearing, she took Zilpah, her maid, and gave her to Jacob to wife. And Zilpah, Leah's maid, bare Jacob a son. Everybody in the Bible got married through sacred energy exchange. Now Jacob has 4 wives. Book of Genesis, or Bereshit, chapter 37, verse 2. These are the generations of Jacob, and Joseph, being 17 years old, was feeding the flock with his brethren, and the lad was with the sons of Bilhah, and with the sons of Zilpah, his father's wives. And Joseph brought and report to their father. So Jacob had 4 wives, all of whom he married in the bedroom. The truth of the matter is, family, sacred energy exchange with a consenting adult female virgin and her father's permission has always been biblical marriage, not some man-made marriage licenses that were created by the Ophites, the Church of England, over 1,100 years after the New Testament was written and completed. No one in the entirety of the scriptures obtained a marriage license, which is man-made. Book of Malachi, chapter 3, verse 6. For I am Yahuwah, Elohim, I change not. Therefore ye sons of Jacob are not consumed. Yahuwah Elohim is the same yesterday, today, and forevermore. Book of Yeshayahu or Isaiah chapter 30. Let's pick this up at verse 18, 19 it is. Verse 20. And though Yahuwah Elohim give you the bread of adversity and the water of affliction, yet not shall thy teachers be removed into a corner any more, but thine eyes shall see thy teachers, and thine ears shall hear a word behind thee, saying, This is the way, walk ye in it, when ye turn to the right hand and when ye turn to the left. Like, share, and subscribe, and support the ministry, support the work. They restrict this form of content from getting out there, so I need your help in getting this truth to the masses, and support the ministry, family. Book of Isaiah chapter 5. Book of Yeshayahu or Isaiah chapter 5 verse 20. Woe unto them that call evil good and good evil, that put darkness for light and light for darkness, that put bitter for sweet and sweet for bitter. Woe unto them that are wise in their own eyes and prudent in their own sight. Yahuwah Elohim does not change. 2 Chronicles chapter 24, verse 2 and 3. You see it on the screen. Yahuwah Elohim is the same yesterday, today, and forevermore. 2 Chronicles 13:21. Look, family, I'm out of time for today. Thank you for spending time with me. Like, share, subscribe. Much ahab and love to all humanity. Until next time, have a wonderful Yom Kol day. Much love and respect to all humanity. Shalom, family.